Joined here today by the one and only Brian Boom Kelleher, coming off the big win this past weekend on the McGregor card, of course, UFC 246. Thanks so much for joining me, man. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course, man. And first things first, before we get into the fight and everything, this was a very big event. I mean, some people were talking about it doing 2 million buys. Did this feel like a big event for you on your end?
Yeah, originally I was supposed to be on the early prelim, so I feel like it would have been a complete different vibe. But when
Right.
I walked out main card, it was filled arena. It was pretty out in there. You saw the Irish flags, and it was a pretty cool moment.
And what was your reaction? I mean, who called you up and told you that you'd be moved to the main card?
Oh, it was crazy. It was at the weigh-in, the ceremonial weigh-ins. I was there. Dean was in the back, and he's like, "Hey, man, just to let you, you're bumped up to the main card." And I'm like, "Wait a second, really?" Like I was ready to wake up and get right to it, because I thought I was gonna fight early. So I had that in my head, like, all right, I'm gonna wake up and just eat breakfast, digest, and go fight. But now I had all day to recover more and rehydrate more, and it all worked out perfectly to my benefit. So it was amazing.
And so you touched a little bit on it, but how did it affect your preparation? Because I assume fighters, they're very routine based. I mean, was it a drastic change or was it cool just, being able to fight on the main card?
Oh no, it was cool. I my whole motto was like just be unfazed. No matter what happens, things are gonna get changed. Sometimes you're in the back warming up, and they're like, "Oh, we have a break, and we're gonna bring you out for another 20 minutes." And you're trying to time your warm up, but it just doesn't go smooth all the time. So you got to be able to kind of take what's given, and just let it be and accept it, not really let it affect you so much. When they bumped me to the main card, I was like, well, this is a blessing. This is a better opportunity for me, for more eyes on me. And look, I got the bonus, and I got the fish in front of Dana, and it all worked out. It was amazing.
And one thing I did want to ask you about, I was looking up your record, doing my research, and for nicknames, they had Boom, and they also had a Whitey Mouse. Is that accurate? I mean, where did that come from?
Yeah, you know what? Like if I turn around with my ears, they stick out, like I look just like Mighty Mouse, but people started calling me Whitey Mouse. It was hilarious. And a lot of people say it, but it's not one of those nicknames that I think I should actually take in and use. Kind of a little
Right.
weird, but it's funny.
Yeah, for sure. Well, one thing we did see before the fight, we saw you rocking the crystal. What's the story behind the crystals? All over my Twitter, I'm seeing stuff about crystals. What's the story behind the crystals, man?
We got the crystal right here, man. Pyrite. I'm actually gonna get like a hole drilled in it and make like a rope necklace, because it's just like by itself right now. But it's just a fun kind of inside joke, with Jose Youngs, PT Carroll, those guys over there. I think they have people sending them crystals, and it started with Jared Cannonier because he wears like the necklaces, and
Right.
they started to like jump on the fact that that's why people are winning fights, because these crystals. So like I told them, like, listen, I need a crystal for this fight. Like, where are you guys? Because they were like saying they had crystals. So I met Jose Youngs in the media area. He gave me this crystal, and the whole entire week went perfect. Like it went as perfect as it could go. So it's Team Crystal all the way, baby.
Yeah, so it's safe to say we're gonna see you rocking the crystal every fight week.
Yeah, I got to keep it a tradition now. I can't let this thing go. So
All right, one thing coming into this fight, we hadn't seen you. I believe it was over a year. I think last time we saw you was against Montel Jackson. What sort of happened in that year? I mean, were you injured the whole time? Were you trying to get back out there? What sort of happened in that year?
yeah, since Montel Jackson, I faced an injury. It knocked me out of my Mitch Gagnon fight I was supposed to have, I believe, in June or July. But that was, kind of devastating in the moment. I wanted to rebound, and I wanted to get back in the winning circle. And like now, I had two losses, and I had to turn down a fight, so I didn't feel too good about my UFC career. And kind of stepped back from training. I reinvigorated myself, and it actually ended up being a real blessing, because I was feeling burnt out, training, and I wasn't feeling that same excitement to compete. And I think the time away really helped me reignite that flame, and I felt it because when I got back to sparring hard, like it was a different me. It was the old Brian. The fire was in me, and like I was aggressive, and I was my old self again. And I was like, man, this is who I need to be, and I could beat anybody. And so that's really where that whole year off led me, and it brought me here to this victory, which was it was great, man.
And so is it safe to say that year off was good for you? I mean, you mentioned mentally, but I mean, physically, are you using that time off to recover? I mean, what are you doing there?
Yeah, I had to heal up my injury, which took a little while because it was a nagging thing that you try to keep training and it keeps re-injuring itself. But I really it was mental. I just let my body heal physically, but mentally it was like that's what I really needed. I needed that break from the game to like reinvigorate myself and get back to where I was before this, before my debut and everything, where I was getting into the UFC, where, I was, living the dream and just really passionate about everything and really excited to perform. I lost that a little bit and it came back through that time off. And a lot of people would say, ring rust, it's a big thing. And I didn't feel any of that on it. I felt like that time off made me want to fight more and perform better and really keep my job and fight out my contract the best way I could.
And so, how did you feel mentally out in the cage? Did you feel different with this time off and getting yourself back there mentally, or did it feel kind of like any other fight?
No, it felt different for sure. I could be honest. In the Lineker fight, I was there. I performed. I fought hard. It was devastating to lose like that, and to be able to kind of accept it was hard. But the Montel fight, I feel like I took that Lineker loss into that fight with me, and mentally I just wasn't there, and that's where things started to spiral downward for me. And this fight, I felt an ultimate like calm over me. I just felt like happy to be there, calm, confident, all the good emotions that you want went into a fight.
And so, how do you look back at your performance against Osborne? We know you got the guillotine choke and everything, but how do you personally look back at that performance?
I'm happy because the way it worked out, you get in there, you get a quick hook, you come out unscathed, then you get a bonus. Like, it can't go any better than that, to be honest. But
Right.
as far as like negatives, and I wouldn't even say negatives, but things that I took from the fight that I'd like to improve upon is like my striking confidence. He came out aggressive, and I knew he's like that, willing to take risks, hands down. And I took him down because I knew that was where he was least comfortable. But I didn't get to strike. I didn't get to really show my stand-up game, and that's like what I look forward to in the next one.
Did you feel like this fight was one of those fights they booked kind of, your last fight of your contract? I mean, he's a young guy, you're a veteran in the sport. Did you feel like this was kind of meant to put him over, or do you feel like this was sort of just like a normal matchup, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, I looked at it like that, because being that I was fighting out my contract, I was on my last fight, 2 losses. I know how the UFC works. I see how they do things. This was a young kid, big hype behind him, prospect, off the Tender Series. He looked good in that performance. It was a case like, let's see where Kelleher is. Like, is he still here, or is the new wave coming in, and we got to push him out? And I think I proved that I still belong in the UFC, and I'm gonna go on a streak here and get some wins going together.
And tell me a little bit about that guillotine choke. I remember there's one sequence where you lock it in and we see you kind of pick him up. At what point did you realize it was locked in and it was over for him?
I see with the guillotine, like I'm like a headhunter, like I was saying in other interviews. Like if you leave your neck out there, like I'm all for it. You know what I mean? I'm trying to finish the fight. So he kind of was trying to get up off that half guard off the cage, and I wrapped my arm around his head, and I was having trouble getting my other arm in. But I squeezed it in there, and once I locked it, I was like, okay, I have his neck. I have a good chin strap, like it's tight. But I got to secure my legs. I got to get my positioning right. So I really stayed patient, which was great because, you don't want to just pull guard and his neck slip out and now you're on your back and you lost the choke. So I stayed patient. I took my time. I kind of mounted him against the cage somewhat and then let him kind of fall on top of me slowly because I didn't want to lose the head. And at that point, I had felt like his hands stuck in there, like really cinched and tight, where he couldn't really use his hands. And that's why he started tapping with his foot, which was crazy. I
Oh
never
yeah.
seen that.
If I remember correctly, while you're getting the choke, I believe it was you. Joe Rogan was mentioning that you were trying to get the arm in guillotine. Is that something you did on purpose? Did you want specifically the arm in guillotine, or are you just working with whatever you got?
No, actually, if you, I do love the Armin guillotine. That's like probably my like most probable submission in the gym. You know what I mean? It's like one of my things that I hit a lot. But if you go back and you look, you see kind of try to go for the arm out and it's not working, and then I move and go back for the arm in, and that's where like I found a little space to get through. And for me, the arm in works better to secure the body, to make sure he doesn't spin out or create a scramble there. So that's why I like the arm in better, and I went for that one.
And so now that the fight's over, we do know. I mean, I guess technically you're no longer with the UFC because I guess your contract's up. But what do things look like for you at this point? Is it about renegotiating with the UFC, listening to offers? What does this period look like for you in your career?
In my heart, man, I want to remain in the UFC. I want to be the best. That was the whole reason I was in this, and I love the UFC, and I feel like they do have the best fighters, and obviously the best hype behind the promotion compared to others. But in the end, it comes down to money. It's like your livelihood. So I'm gonna shop around and see what comes my way, and obviously my manager will do that. I'll be in talks with him, and we'll take best offer, and we'll push for the best monetary situation we can get, whether it's UFC or Bellator or whatever it is. I prefer the UFC, obviously, but you got to take the best offer that's given.
And so one more for you. What's next for you at this point? I mean, when can we expect to see you back in the cage, and what's next for you at this point in your career?
I really want to fight on that April 18th in Brooklyn, my backyard essentially. I'm from Long Island, so like that's right here. It's perfect timing, 3 months time, in between fights. And that's perfect for me. I don't like long camps. I stay in shape all year round, so I don't need like the 8 weeks plus to get ready for a fight. I only really need like 4 or 5 weeks, to be honest, to up the intensity for fight preparation. But that would be ideal for me. I don't necessarily have a name. I would like to fight Sean O'Malley, but I don't want to waste a call out because he's already booked and knows what's going to happen with that. He's got to take El Taco out first. So I don't know, man. We'll see what happens, but April 18th for sure.
All right, well, we look forward to it. Thanks so much for the time, Brian. I really appreciate it, and good luck with free agency, man. We look forward to seeing what's next for you.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.